Time again, that time when we step into the virtual bar, apple in hand, for the teacher, of course, and sit in our favorite booth and with some friends who are going to help us go back to school, as it were. I'm joined by Ken, and Ken alone because Greg couldn't bother to get out of bed. I'm your host, Christopher Antone, and this is Three Pastors Walk Into a Bar. Do you think Greg's out of bed yet?
Probably. Well, he's got your mom's dog, right?
I don't know why that's so funny. So my mom has this Chihuahua. I guess it's it's not a Chihuahua. It's like a mini Doberman, I guess. Mini Doberman Chihuahua mix. I don't know.
That's a bad combo.
He's special. He's pretty special, this dog. And so Greg lost the crapshoot to get him this time around.
Short straw on that one.
Yeah. Well, so it should make you feel better. You drew the short straw for the show today.
Yeah.
And so he drew the short straw for Boss Man. So that'll teach him.
Yeah.
So we're pretty thrilled today. We have two folks joining us today, which is pretty exciting. We have Michelle Thomas and Ramona Grissom joining us today. Hey, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good. Waking up. Good morning.
Yeah, you're making it?
Yeah.
You kind of just shake your head and a little bit wake up a little bit. So these guys are running for 2 trustee spots as it stands right now, right?
Correct. Reelection.
Reelection.
Yep.
So you guys are currently sitting on the Lakeland Joint School District Board of Trustees, school board, as it were.
Yes, and just so we're clear, Michelle Thompson.
Michelle Thompson.
Yes.
What did I say?
Thomas.
Did I?
Yeah.
I'm an idiot.
Just want to put it out there.
It says it. It says it right there. It's like, I need to go back and learn
You
how
got
to
new
read.
glasses, though, right? Are those the right ones?
No, not really. These are just readers.
They're like 6 pairs.
Yeah.
Swapping out all the time.
No, that's just me being an idiot. So anyways, you guys sit on a board with 3 other people. So right now there's Randy Bain, who is trustee for Zone 1. Ramona Grissom, you're in Zone 2. Michelle Thompson, you are in Zone 3. David Quimby is in Zone 4, and Bob Jones is in Zone 5. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and so Ramona, what zone is Zone 2? Who do you represent?
I represent from about the Chilco Mill up the Bunko to the southern portion of Bonner County, down Diagonal, down 54, and quite a ways down Clagstone. It's a really large area.
Okay, so if you live in Athol, then Ramona is your school board representative.
Yes, Athol, Chilco, Bayview, all those areas. Carywood, the portion of Carywood that would be in the Kootenai County side.
Okay. And then Michelle, what's your zone?
My zone is if you're coming up Highway 41 out of Rathdrum, headed north, just past the Bi-Mart.
Okay.
You're going to keep going all the way up to Scarcello and then start going east. I am directionally challenged. I think that's the correct way. But you're going to go east all the way over towards Dodd Road. I have Chilco Road. I kind of I border Ramona.
Okay, so you guys butt up right there in Chilco.
Yeah, we do.
Mm-hmm.
And then down to a portion of Hayden and then back across to Ramsey and Highway 53 to up to almost Atlas and all
Wow.
of that area.
Just so you edge just like Hayden then a little bit.
Yes, I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
both
wasn't
of us
aware
do.
that Lakeland Joint School District went that far down.
Oh, yeah. We are a very large school district.
Yeah, and then you guys go clear up into Bonner County, correct?
Just the
Yes.
southern end, all the way. We go all the way to Hauser.
Yeah.
Hauser's within our district also.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have the second largest bus route miles in the state of Idaho.
I believe it's 33,000,
Holy
Yeah.
smokes.
Yeah.
That was
3,300.
Maybe 3,300.
Yeah,
That's a
something.
lot.
Yeah.
That's a ton of area to cover with buses,
Yes,
that's
it
for
is.
sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the budget for buses and gas and drivers is substantial.
It is.
Yes.
And the state only funds 85% of the prior year's cost.
Okay,
So
so
every year we're running 15% less than, as far as funding.
adjusting for inflation. And
No.
No.
no, doesn't adjust for
Not
inflation.
that
No.
lucky.
I can't believe that they would not adjust for inflation. That's a shocker.
Yep. No.
So they
Wow.
expect the levies to pick up the slack?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The levies are expected to pick up a lot
Yes.
of the budget. A lot of what the district needs to operate.
And we've talked about that before with
Mhm.
Lisa, wasn't it?
Yeah.
About how vital levies are for the functioning of the school district, that it's
Right.
not just excess money and excess spending and nice to haves. It's part of your critical budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That was their idea of local control.
Mm-hmm.
The people decide what they want their schools to look like.
Which would be nice in a perfect world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We had a long conversation about budgets and how those things work. And part of that conversation was about people's immediate knee-jerk reaction to any time a levy shows up on a ballot. Anytime a levy shows up on the ballot, people just instantly freak out, it seems. It seems like they just instantly are just like the no stuff just starts coming out almost instantaneously. And a lot of it is based on maybe some valid concerns, which we might get to here in a little bit. But a lot of it is a lot of fear mongering and things that are a little bit baseless. But it's kind of it's an extra level of labor for you guys, because not only do you have to maintain a school district, not only do you have to maintain a presence so that you have elections coming up the next time around, but then you also have to it seems like every time you turn around, you're having to campaign for a new levy. So how much of your job do you feel like actually is campaigning and talking about levies?
Well, there are levies only typically every 2 years. Every 2 years. But it's a long process, right? There's a lot of communication. So I don't know, probably 8 months, 10 months every 2 years.
Good gracious.
But then you have, like you're saying, everything leading up to it, and then the aftermath, everything after it.
Yeah.
And I guess there's two schools of thought on the levy, other than the local control and the school districts needing them. When the board votes, the board's being asked, do you want to send this to the people or not? So, you could look at it that the levy comes so the people can make the decision, right? Without it coming out, I guess they could just start passing them without a vote. That would be horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like an emergency levy, which is how that operates. The public doesn't get to vote on it.
Right.
The board can just decide to pass the levy.
So that's interesting. You would say that there's board members that put a levy through, not necessarily because they support the levy, but because they want the people to decide whether they want it or not.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, that's good to know. So, Michelle, according to the Kootenai Journal, you voted to open schools in fall of 2020 without face masks,
Correct.
which we're pretty happy about that. You helped draft the policy keeping gender ideology out of our schools,
Correct.
ensuring girls' bathrooms are protected, and the district would respect the Constitution by not requiring certain pronouns to be used by students or staff. The policy was approved by the board in early of 2023. then that policy is still in effect, and that's just for Lakeland Joint School District, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. So as far as Lakeland Joint School District is concerned, all the people that are out there that are concerned about wokeism as far as gender bathrooms, gender equality, pronoun usage, and all of that stuff, that's kind of been a settled issue in Lakeland Joint School District.
Yes, as from a board perspective, absolutely.
Yeah. So if anybody has any complaints about that, then it's on the other side of that issue with people, wanting pronouns or anything like that,
Correct.
because we have a policy in place that states that we will honor the Constitution and not have mandated speech or
Correct.
forced speech.
Right.
Okay.
So is that fire out, or is there still some embers burning and they're trying to get some traction back?
We're still talking about it.
Still talking about it.
We're
God.
talking about it this morning.
Yeah.
Really? What was that conversation
Yeah.
about?
Yep. Well, I mean, here everywhere we've been, everybody wants to know about that. In talking with the parents that have come to our district during the pandemic from out of state, I can understand why they're up in arms
Yeah.
the way they are and the things that they endured. I talked to a family that came from the suburbs of Oregon, and they were vaccinating students without parental permission.
Wow.
That's scary. So I can understand why everybody is so adamant that we've talked with about making sure that this is black and white written down and that they have something to stand on. And it's a social issue in my mind. It has nothing to do with education.
Right.
It's not, your pronoun is not going to make you a better reader or a better at math or a better citizen, a better person. I mean, it's from an education perspective, it doesn't influence the test scores or your ability to read and write.
Right. Yeah, it seems a little nonsensical, but that seems to be one of the areas that people really want to just go crazy about in today's society. Is this whole gender spectrum concept, gender neutral bathrooms. That worked out really well for Coeur d'Alene. I don't even know what happened with that. I think those girls filed a lawsuit, didn't they? Or,
Yes.
Yeah, and that's still in process. Didn't is it Catherine from Pacific Justice Institute? Wasn't she working on that one?
Yes.
She was working on that one
I
as
believe
well.
so.
And the
Mhm.
one in the one where the kid didn't get to go to graduation because
Wallace.
because he said
Or
that
was
there were
it-
only two genders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a Silver Valley. I don't know that it was Wallace.
It was the Silver Valley there
Yeah.
somewhere. I can't remember exactly where it was, but
But I
yeah,
think
she was working on those two.
Yeah, I think we already have an example in Virginia, Loudoun County. It was
Yeah.
quite clear when they did implement that the unfortunate incident of, what the young lady suffered at the hands of the boy that was using the girls' restroom.
It's hilarious to me to imagine a world where you make the girls' bathroom and locker room accessible to boys, and boys do not exploit that.
Right.
That seems nonsensical to me. I mean, I can remember when I was in high school as boys, we always tried to exploit stuff like that
Sure.
because we're boys, right? And
Right.
that's what you do. You chase after the girls. That's just like what high school people do, right? Well, yeah, let's put them in a position to where we're just going to open the gates, as it were, and say,
Right.
here, just do whatever you want. It's like, wow, that's a recipe for disaster. Even if the kid doesn't identify as a female, who's to say that he didn't for like that 10 minutes, right?
Mm.
Right.
I mean, if I were in high school, I'd be like, yeah, I identify as female right now. Then go into the girls' locker room and hang around,
Hey, girls.
take some pictures, whatever. And then, oh, wait a minute, I changed my mind. I'm a dude again. Yeah, it seems nonsensical when you really think about the practicalities of it. It's exhausting, guys. The whole gender thing is just like, I'm ready for it to be done. It's just exhausting. It's just exhausting and
Agreed.
so time consuming. So you've lived in Kootenai County for 31 years with your husband,
Yes.
24 of those years in Rathdrum.
Yes.
Wow, 24 years in Rathdrum.
Yep.
Nice.
Seen a little bit of change there, haven't you?
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of change.
That place is growing like crazy.
It is.
It's scary.
Very.
Yeah. How's your city council doing? Pretty happy with those guys? No comment? No comment? All right, we'll move on. So you're the mother of three. Your children attend the Lakeland schools, and you have two grandchildren that attend Lakeland School District schools.
Yes.
And you are also a counselor for a local counseling agency, and you own your own business.
Yes.
Wow. What is this business that you own?
I provide services for the court. So I do mediation, supervised visitations. I work with people that lose their rights to their children.
Okay. So you do like small claims court mediation?
I can, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you do any kind of mediation where mediation is called
Yes.
for.
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting. I used to work at a finance company, and we did a lot of small claims court litigation.
Okay.
And so we always had to have a mediator. There was like a point where before you were actually able to get your final judgment, you had to sit down and with a mediator with
Yeah.
a person.
Yep.
And then that would be the part where they would be like, well, you can't get blood from a turnip, right? That conversation. Yeah. So Ramona,
Yes,
you've been here before.
I have.
Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Oh, we enjoy having
One
you.
of our few guests that makes a return appearance.
Yeah, it's
We
basically
usually scare them off.
yeah, it's basically you and Heather Scott. You're the only ones that actually come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody else hates us.
Oh.
Well, I mean, not Scott.
Yeah,
Scott's
Scott
been
Herndon's a
back a
friend of
couple
the show,
times.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everybody
He's
loves us. Yeah. We're pretty great,
We're
actually.
kind of a big deal. Really.
We're kind of a big deal, really. We have our own coffee cup. It's the 3P coffee mug. Actually, if you submit an idea and your idea gets used on the show,
Mhm.
you get a free 3P coffee mug.
yeah, and it's an awesome coffee mug, if I
It
might
is.
say myself.
Yeah, when
it's
you
great.
get home, you try coffee out of it. It's going to be better.
I bet.
It is.
I bet. I
Yeah.
can see that.
You can obviously see that. Yeah. So you have served as an administrator overseeing the day-to-day operations of a software company.
Correct. Yes.
So you're a techie.
I am a geek, yes, by
Wow.
nature.
Man.
Yes, that hints a lot of my conversations at the board meetings.
People might not know that about you, that you're a
It's
geeky
just not
person.
logical.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Since I've been in the tech field since '97, I worked for a scientist who helped develop and place the Hubble telescope, which I loved doing. We also did light refracting, so we split light signal to impregnate glass for Disneyland. They used the
Oh.
lenses on the underwater submarine for color lighting. So I did that for a while, but yeah, I've always been a geek. Yep. So in '97, I entered the software world, and I've been there ever since.
Well, props. We're big fans of geeks here.
Yeah.
Geeks rule the world. I always tell
Yes, they do.
I always tell my boys, because they're very sports centric. And when I was in high school, I was a band geek. So my senior year in high school, I had like 5 band classes. But I always tell them, it's like, be nice to the geeks because you're going to be working for them someday.
Yep.
So just remember that. So you are a home educator. You homeschooled your kids?
I did, yes, all 4 of them. Now, our oldest son graduated from Timberlake. He was, when it was the high school / junior high all in one, he was one of the first graduating classes up there. Speaking of geeks, he also lettered in band and choir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but he played football.
What does he play?
Yeah, running back. Yeah,
Okay, so he plays running back.
yep.
And then what does he play in band?
Oh, he plays any horn. So
Okay.
cornet, trumpet,
French horn.
Yeah, bass guitar.
Oh, he plays bass guitar.
Yep.
I play bass guitar.
Very versatile.
Yeah, plays a little bit
Nice.
of everything. And then our other son is very musically inclined. In fact, we built him a music studio when he was younger.
What?
Yeah, he plays piano, guitar, drums. He went to Spokane Falls for a while for an audiology degree, and they actually were begging to employ him at 18 because
Wow.
he could take over for the professor and teach the class. So all of them were homeschooled, but the 2 oldest did graduate from a public school. All of them had interaction as dual enrollment students in the Lakeland School District, whether it was at the high school level or even the elementary level. And almost every year we used to go take our school pictures at Athol Elementary.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, I definitely was a home educator and support.
Yeah, it's one
The
thing a lot of
choice.
homeschool parents don't understand is that you have access to public school
Right.
facilities and public school services.
Mm-hmm.
You pay for them whether
Right.
you're homeschooling or not.
Right.
So
Correct.
you better use them. We did that with our boys too. We homeschool, and we were in Timberlake playing basketball for a long time until we decided to go to a private school and do some basketball there. But yeah, we've always used the public schools for their facilities and for their sports and things of that nature.
Yeah. Or the
so-
higher maths when the kids get up there and they need, trig and calc and those kinds of things. They're a good resource also.
Yeah.
If there's
Yeah.
not somebody in the co-op doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. My boys, you say things like trig and calc to them, and they're like, "Are you nuts? You must be out of your mind."
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking the other night. People like to say, "Oh, well, my grandfather only had an 8th grade education, right? Because school only went to the 8th grade." But it's like, well, did you ever look at an 8th grade math book from back then? In 8th grade, students in the United States of America could do trigonometry and calculus.
Yeah. Your average American only uses 6th grade math
Right.
right now. Yeah. It's pretty bizarre. I only use 6th grade math. I don't know. Like you asked me to multiply a fraction. I could multiply a fraction. I don't know about dividing one. I'd have to go back and relearn how to divide a fraction.
Yeah, that's something you don't.
It's
do
a
every day.
perishable skill. Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of that in my Bible research.
No.
Yeah, there's not a lot of algebra going on there. So you moved to Idaho in 1994 with your husband and 4 children, correct?
Yes.
You moved here 2 years after I graduated from high school.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. How does that make you feel?
Alive.
Good for you. Good for you.
Good answer.
Good answer. Yeah, I like that. So your children, like we talked about, have all attended or done things with Lakeland Joint School District for quite a long time.
Yes.
So that's a little bit about you guys. I think one of the things that we always try to do here is let our listeners see that you guys are just people.
Yes.
You're just human beings
Absolutely.
that are trying to do something for your community. I think people have this tendency to segregate you from the rest of society because you've chosen to serve your community. So they assume that you're some type of like career politician or something. But you guys are not in it for the money. That's for sure.
No, there's no money. There's no benefits. We're the only elected officials in the state of Idaho, your trustees, that have no perks.
Yeah. So you got 0 perks.
0. Yeah.
But what about all the power?
Oh, yeah. Yes, that works quite well. Can you tell?
You
It's
just
fun.
bully people around and get what you want. every
Yeah.
Oh
time.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Their reach knows no limits. That's why the Illuminati is really trying hard to consume all these board seats. I think there's definitely something to the power that you guys have, though, that I think does scare people. Just speaking to that point, you guys are the frontline key holders to the education that public school children are receiving or are not receiving.
True.
And that, I think, gives people pause when they think about who's going to be on these boards and what's going to be talked about and that type of thing. So there's a truckload of things that we can talk about that I know that I want to bring up, and hopefully you guys can answer for us. Some kind of like preliminary questions that will kind of help us to understand what the board looks like and how working with the board looks like. The first question is like, what is your working relationship with the other trustees? Is it a pretty decent working relationship, or is there a lot of conflict and, unhealthy debate?
Oh, I think we have a great working relationship, and I think we have a very healthy board. I appreciate the fact that it's not mono thought,
Mm-hmm.
right? I like the debate. we all see things through a different lens in life, but we should all be focused on the same goal when it comes to the board. And there's such a variety of experience on the board. I think when there is debate, it is healthy debate, maybe passionate debate sometimes. But I think we get along quite well.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I mean, we, when Trustee Quimby and Trustee Jones came on the board, the camaraderie really shifted to where we were more focused as a team moving forward for the betterment of the kids within our district.
Is that because there's a lot of agreement between you guys as far as policy is concerned, or is it just what would you say creates that camaraderie?
Respect. I think there is a lot of
Absolutely.
respect for each of us as an individual and what we bring to the table.
Yeah.
I know I have great admiration and respect for those that are on the board. I really respect Trustee Jones's background as a superintendent because he does have a lot of information and a lot of experience to glean from, and then, of course, Trustee Bain with her numbers background in accounting.
Yep.
She's been great, and then Trustee Quimby, Coach Dave. He has a great insight with the parents and the students. And I said this before when we did something, I always feel like I need to put a disclaimer out there before I start talking. I am an INTJ. In other words, I'm not a real people person. I'm not a social butterfly, if people haven't figured that out. So I appreciate that we have people on the board that do interact at the level, with the constituents more, and they're in the school more, and those types of thing. Not that I haven't, but that really drives them. And I think the board needs that.
Yeah.
And Michelle has that too. She's pretty good with the administrators at the schools and visiting the schools and those types of things.
Yeah. So
It sounds really healthy.
yeah, there seems to be a good kind of dispersion of traits,
Yes.
as it were, in the board. That's a good thing. So there's actually a third seat that's up for reelection, isn't it? Whose seat
Correct.
is that?
Randy Baines.
Randy Baines. Okay. And what platform is he running on? Do we know?
She.
She. Sorry.
I don't remember. I saw a couple of her signs.
Is that the pronoun she chooses to go by, or is that
That's her biological.
is that her
pronoun.
biological pronoun?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
Good to clear that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta
You got that name out there, you
clarify
never
these
know.
days. You never know. Yeah.
Yep. I'm not really sure what her platform is.
Does
to tell you
she
the truth?
does she support a lot of the same policies you guys support, or is she
Yeah,
I would say
think
for the most part,
Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
All right.
Good.
Yep.
And so is anybody running against her?
Yes, there is. She does have an opponent. I haven't heard much out of him, but I'm vying for Randy. I keep, holding her up to the public and making sure people go check her out and find out about her.
Right, and
Because I
she's
think she's a vital asset to the board.
she's
For
a
sure.
huge asset.
so she's in zone 1. Now, where's zone 1
Spirit
at?
Lake.
That's Spirit Lake area,
Yeah.
like
Blanchard.
Spirit Lake Cutoff, Blanchard.
Yep.
Okay, moving on up towards Priest Lake before you get to the boundary.
Correct.
Okay, because Priest Lake is in another district, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. That's important to know because there's a lot of controversy going on up there, and that's
Yes.
not our school district.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So what are some of the challenges that you guys are facing in the future? Like if you get reelected, what are some of the major issues that you feel like you're going to have to deal with over the next couple of years?
Growth. I mean, the growth is really in our face now. We're going to have to build more schools. We just literally have no room. And since the legislators changed the law, and I understand the thought behind it, where anybody in the state of Idaho paying taxes or having a child can go to any school in the state of Idaho as long as they want to provide the transportation. But unfortunately, like in our district that's busting at the seams and we've literally turned closets into classrooms, now we have all these people trying to come into the district, which we've had since the pandemic, but there's no place to put them. And the people that live in our district, they're here for a reason. Some of them purposely moved here to be in the district. And the only way to build a school in the state of Idaho is a bond. The state does not pay for that.
Yeah. People may not know this, but the Lakeland School District overall, according to now, some of this is driven by diversity counts, which would be silly for the state of Idaho. But Lakeland School District is in the top 50% of schools in Idaho. Mm-hmm. And among those, our graduation rate, we're in the top 5% graduation rate in the state.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Lakeland Joint School District is.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's some other great statistics here. They have the largest student body, number of students. You're in the top 1 percentile for number of students in a district.
Yep.
So that's what you're speaking to, is the growth aspect. You guys got a lot of people that are pouring into this district. So you're in the top 1%. Mm-hmm. That's no small thing.
No.
Right. Out of 115 school districts in the state.
Yeah. So there's only, if you're in the top 1%, what is that?
So you're like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Right.
There's only 1.5. So that'd be
Probably
2.
as opposed to Boise, I would imagine.
Right.
One of the districts down there.
Mm-hmm.
Wrap your head around that for a second.
Yeah.
Like, this school district is second only to like Boise when it comes to number of students.
Right.
Yeah.
But you probably have a very disproportionately high number of rural students compared to urban Boise.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, these kids are all living off grid and out in the sticks and down the road. And
which the crazy thing is that you guys have been able to maintain right around a 19 to 20 to 1 ratio for students per teacher, according to this.
The goal.
Yeah. Would you say that's pretty close right now, or are we over that, do you think?
Oh, we're
over
quite
it.
a ways over that.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So where would you say that we're at right now? I mean, if you just had to guess, this is not an accurate number by any stretch, but would you say it's 25 to 1?
20. I was going to say 24.
Yeah, it's
24
between
to 1?
24 to 26 to 1.
Okay, so the growth is affecting a lot of factors. When you start talking about growth, you're talking about transportation, you're talking about food, you're talking about janitorial services, you're talking about administrative staff, you're talking about teachers, you're talking about all the things that teachers need. I mean, all of these things climb exponentially as you grow.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
with all these kids pouring in, are teachers pouring in with them?
No.
So that
No.
speaks to recruiting is
No. And
vital for your future, right?
Right, absolutely. In fact, we had an open position, I believe, for the entire year at Athol Elementary for a special education teacher, and the position couldn't be filled. Fortunately, in the state of Idaho, there is some provisional things that can be done to have people teach a certain subject or in a certain environment. We've had to incorporate that quite a bit. So, no, the teachers aren't pouring in, but
why do you think that is?
well, if you graduate, we'll take a brand new teacher. They graduate with $50,000 in debt. And before the governor raised it, they would start at $40,000 a year salary. Now it's $47,000, but they'll stay there for 6 years without a raise. Mm-hmm. It doesn't pay really well, or the teacher salaries. We need to fix that, that. And I think that the teaching environment itself has become quite hostile towards teachers. Teachers take a lot of the blame for things that they shouldn't be blamed for. You have to remember the teacher, as far as the chain of command, is at the bottom, unfortunately. Yet they're the ones that spend the majority of the time with our students.
You would think they would be the front line.
Right. And they are with the student, but when it comes to within a district, they take orders from the principal, who's taking orders from the superintendents, who might be taking orders from, in some school districts, they have curriculum directors. They have, all these other people, and the teachers just carrying out like this foot soldier, the order of those who are above them.
Yeah.
Now, there are those that would say you could solve a lot of that if you were to remedy the top end bloated administration of schools. Do you think that that's something that is true, or is there something to be done for that?
Yes, it's true.
I would agree.
Yeah. We just looked at some statistics in the district. That is one thing I can say, is that under the new administration and the new CFO, and we're finally, the board for many, many years was in the dark in this district.
Yes.
The trustees had no idea a lot of times what was happening. It was all controlled by administration, and that was it. And that's part of the reason I think that we have taken so much flack, is because we asked too many questions, right? We were always being told we're in the weeds.
Yeah.
That's changing. We're now being able to talk directly with the maintenance people to find out what is the condition of the schools outside of visiting them and seeing. In fact, I have somebody just text me messages of Athol Elementary, and they're like, look at all this rot. Well, we fought hard, and I'm proud to say I sort of spearheaded that for Athol and for Spirit Lake, because up here in the north, it's like everybody's focus is always in Rathdrum. Right? Rathdrum, it's like, well, hello, we're up here too, and we pay taxes, and our schools are falling apart.
Yep.
Kids don't want to go to schools that fall apart. It's not a good learning environment. So all of that's changing. The communication's better. We're getting to see more. We can now identify, like we've been asking, where are the dollars literally going, specifically going? And so we're working on that. That is one reason I think it's so pertinent that we are reelected, not because I want the pay, or the power.
The all the perks that come with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. What will I do without those perks? But because we're in the middle of this good thing, right? Literally in the middle of it, of, being a little bit more, or a lot more accountable to the people.
Transparent.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So we can say finally, yes, our buildings are in poor shape. Sorry. Your dollars weren't spent. I think that we can do a better job. We don't have to, we're not admitting all the time that we're, quote, wrong, what's wrong with the district. But it's sometimes we have to say, yeah, that was bad. This hasn't been taken care of. But let's move forward and fix the thing. It has to be collaborative between the board, the administration, and the community. If it is not collaborative, we won't get anywhere. So we can either listen to all of those who are trying to distract, or, look over here, or we can stay focused on education, be the best we can be, and we can continue to be the example for all of Idaho and not just Kootenai County. We hold so many number one spots in Kootenai County alone. And I think that speaks a lot to the district.
Yeah, Lakeland School District has got some good things going on. So what was it that was preventing you guys from having the transparency that you needed in order to know a lot of these things that are going on? What was the blockade that needed to be removed to open up this like floodgate of transparency that you guys are now enjoying?
The prior administration.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad that they made the decision to go home. God bless them. I think that's a great idea. But the prior administration controlled everything. And the people, a lot of people were afraid. I don't know any other word to say to say anything about it.
Now, when you say administration, are you talking about the superintendent and their administration?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
CFO. But all of them worked under the superintendent. There's a lot of it was just, it all stopped there.
Right.
And then when you ask what would happen then is, again, open communication, transparency, and collaboration are so important, because without people talking about what they're being told or what they're hearing, it can't be remedied, right? The devil's in the details and he hides in the dark. So, but bring it in the light. Let's have the conversation.
Right.
But if you shine a light on what's being taught in our schools, then there's no room for people to be able to indoctrinate our children.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the point. I think that's the point. They shouldn't be indoctrinated. They should be educated.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, maybe I was misunderstanding. I thought public schools were a place for children to be indoctrinated in postmodernism and secular humanism.
Yeah,
That's not the case?
That should
It
not
shouldn't
be.
I'm being sarcastic, sorry. Yeah, so you would say that probably working with Lisa and her staff has probably been a breath of fresh air then, as
Yes.
far as,
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
She is very much collaborative. She is very much about allowing people to do their job the way that they know how to do it, what works for them, as long as the end result is the same. And I give her kudos for that. She gets a lot of pushback. You know, people are expecting her to be the ramrod. Who wants to work under somebody like that?
Yeah.
That doesn't make
That's what
good
you had
for
before,
anybody.
and it didn't work.
No,
Yes.
it did not.
Yes.
Yeah, we're big fans of Lisa here.
Yep.
Hey, Lisa.
Hey, Lisa. Good morning.
So growth is a massive issue, and obviously with that issue comes the need for teachers, and the need for teachers is directly linked to their salaries. So then that brings you to the next topic, which is finances. You know, the amount of money that you guys receive from the state, the amount of money that is received from the U.S. government, and the amount of money that is received by levies. So this is one of the things that we tried to clear up with Lisa, because there's this group of individuals in our community that are very angry that our schools are taking federal money. Can you clarify for everyone, what is this federal money that they're talking about, and how does that federal money, or how can that federal money be used?
Would you want me to take that?
Of
So
course.
the federal dollars, just like every other mandate that the schools are under, they also have federal mandates. Fortunately, in some instances, those federal mandates are funded. So we're talking special education, we're talking 504, the different.
What is 504?
504 is sort of like an IEP, like an individual education plan, but 504 is
504 is an opportunity for a student to have special
Accommodation?
accommodations
Right.
for
Okay.
their learning. So if a child can't handle the bright lights, then
So if they're
allowed to.
neurodivergent, it
Yes,
gives them the
yes.
ability to have accommodations to compensate for their neurodivergency.
Well, they don't even have to be neurodivergent, because
Oh.
if they were neurodivergent, they would more than likely be on an IEP.
right.
Oh,
But
okay.
504 would be for my youngest daughter was in a head-on collision, and she suffered a traumatic brain injury.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, so she could not handle the bright lights.
Got you. Okay.
So she was allowed to go into an empty classroom with lights off to have a quiet environment to take a test.
Okay, I got you. I got
Okay.
you. So it's a
She-
little bit different. So
It is.
if you were like autistic, you would fall under IEP.
Correct.
If you have like some kind of condition that is not necessarily related to some kind of neurodivergency or
Right.
something, you would fall under
Yeah,
504.
if you're suffering from anxiety and you are afraid to speak in class, then the teacher is not allowed to call on you. I mean,
Okay.
it's those type of accommodations to where the child is able to feel safe and learn with whatever they need to accomplish.
So
that.
there's a piece of that federal money that is allowed to be utilized for that program.
Yes.
Yes.
In fact, most of the federal dollars are just for those types of things. So there are some.
So for federal programs.
Correct. Yes. Yep. Exactly.
So you can't pay your teachers with federal money.
Well, I don't know. I would have to clarify that, because I'm thinking if they were a special ed teacher, or they were a speech language pathologist or something like that, they might fall underneath that category.
So if they fell within the
Right.
framework of a federal program, it's
Mhm.
a potential that you could use that money to pay for their salary.
Correct.
but it wouldn't be like for your typical algebra teacher
No.
Right.
or math teacher or whatever.
Right.
You-
Yeah. It would be under the guise of you meeting the need of the student under that mandate. The other thing is a McKinney-Vento also, which is homeless children, which we do have. So the McKinney-Vento, we obviously have to, and I don't know why we wouldn't, educate homeless students. And so there's that. There's a lot of those types of programs, and that's where the federal dollars, and I believe also some of the nutrition dollars or federal money. A lot of this comes, the federal dollars go to the state, and then the state, a lot of it is divvied
So
up.
the federal money goes to the state, then the state divvies it out as far as where their districts are at and all that kind of thing.
Right.
Right.
But when you receive it as federal money that must be utilized for these specific things.
Yes.
Correct.
So if a person is looking at the budget sheet and they see federal dollars X, Y, or Z, they need to understand that you're not going to be able to buy gasoline with that federal money,
Correct.
or you're not going to be able to repair your building with that federal
Right.
money, or you're not going to be able to pay a physical education teacher or an art teacher or a math teacher or
Right.
a principal
Mm-hmm.
with that money. That money is locked into very specific things, just like with the COVID money.
Right.
Like a lot of people were freaking out about the fact that schools took COVID money. You guys really didn't have much choice in that, did you? I mean, they just kind of sent you some COVID money, right?
Well, they did, but we did have a choice in some of it, and that was one of my pushbacks, which I did not vote for. Several times we had a vote. I wouldn't vote for it because the last chunk, bucket, whatever you want to call it, the funds that came initially had the vaccine mandate attached to it.
Okay.
So in that instance, I would not vote for it.
Right.
It was only after we had, several lawyers explain to us that no, we were safe. This would not happen because I wanted something in black and white that said if we took the money, we would not have to do this.
We're not going to do forced vaccines.
Right, because you have to remember, we were one of the only school districts in the entire state of Idaho to be open the whole time. So we were providing for anybody that felt they needed it, PPE, whether it was masking, sanitation, plexiglass, whatever they felt like they needed to be safe to do their job, or maybe not even show up, do online teaching because they didn't feel safe coming to the school.
Right.
So that we used the COVID dollars to do all of those things. The COVID dollars helped because remember, COVID came with a lot of its own mandates of how we had to behave. And one of those were like keeping the buses clean. So there was a lot of cleaning supplies we had to go through, a lot of sanitation, special fog machines. And if somebody had the virus in a school, we used the buses to deliver food 7 days a week. So I think that, we did take taxpayer dollars, but we used it to serve the taxpayers and their families. I think we did a pretty good job with that. I would never vote to take money where I felt there was an unconstitutional mandate behind it.
That's the fear, right? The strings that are
Yes,
attached to that
correct.
money
Absolutely.
that can get the tentacles of
Yep.
the federal programs into our local schools. Is there anything like that tied to the money that you're receiving now other than the COVID dollars? These special safety net programs, do they have undue influence on the district that you can see?
As far as I know, no.
Good.
But I only know what we've been informed of,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. Yes.
Or what you've been
told.
told.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep. A
Well,
lot
that's
of
good.
times we have to do our own research and
Yeah.
ask a lot of questions and talk to a lot of people and make sure that we understand what we're reading.
So the level of your knowledge about the school system is basically what you proactively seek after. It's not like there's a reporting agency from the school that's required to come and give you guys a baseline of information.
Correct.
No, there's not. So the legislators did legislate, and this is in the statute, $6,600 per district for certain types of training to continue the continuous improvement plan, which, when they did away with the strategic plan, they put in place this continuous improvement plan. So any training we receive on that can be paid out. But there was only or is only one organization within the state of Idaho that does training, and that's the Idaho School Board Association, which I find their name so ironic, School Board Association. But I think only once or twice maybe there was a board member that was actually part of the organization. It's typically, people who have come out, superintendents, teachers, those types of people. They're
Actually, people who are on the other side of the
Correct.
board.
Correct. So there is nobody to train the board. So in my personality, I just went directly to the statute, read everything I could read, talked to everybody I could talk to, paid for training out of my own pocket. I hold a Title IX certificate that I paid for myself, and I paid for training with one of the top Title IX law firms in the country because so much had changed under Title IX while I was a trustee. So no, there isn't any. Michelle and I, it's always been one of my passions to create a trustee handbook so anybody coming after us isn't thrown in like we were. And plus we were thrown into the middle of a pandemic 3 months after we were elected.
Right.
So
Fun.
It was like double fire hose.
Yeah. But the good news is you guys have fog machines that you can now use in the theater, right?
Yes, that's right. Right. See, multi-purpose. Spend
That's
those
great.
dollars wisely.
Yeah, so then the state funds 80% roughly,
I'd say it would be between 75 to 85%.
and that's of your budget basically.
Correct.
And they disperse that budget based on student population,
It's
or
our
is there a equation that goes into that?
Well, our funding bounced back and forth. It's traditionally always been based on average daily attendance, and it's usually calculated after the first week of school, is my understanding. And then when we hit COVID, they decided they would start funding off of enrollment. So it was actually based on the number of students that were enrolled in your school district. We fluctuate.
Which increased your
It
budget
did. It increased
substantially,
the
yeah.
monies we received substantially, to the point that now we've gone back to average daily attendance. And when you have a school-based population of 4,700 students, but yet on that average daily attendance count, you are down to 42 or 4,300, there's a significant difference that the state's not acknowledging. You have all these kids, but for some reason within your entire student population, this many students were out that particular day. So we don't receive funding for every student in the district. We only receive it on the number of students that showed up on that specific day. It's a very backwards approach to education.
So I imagine that puts you in kind of
Funding.
a quandary. You need to prepare for everybody, but only part of them show up.
Right.
And so some of that money is wasted preparation, wasted time, wasted opportunity.
Well, the reality is we have to staff for 4,700 students, but we're only being paid for 4,300 students. So then we have the taxpayers that have to help supplement for those extra 400 students that we have to educate.
Yeah, I
It's
imagine that's
not
difficult because then when you talk
right.
about a levy, you have to admit we need some of this money to fund salaries,
Correct.
but theoretically it shouldn't need to be, right?
Well,
If you had full funding.
if we had full funding based on the number of students at the 85%, then there's still that 15% that has to be made up somewhere.
Okay.
So the levies will always have to supplement some of the salary.
Well, for sure. And so some of the things that I've heard and some of the discussion that I've heard over the levies related to the total amount of income that Lakeland Joint School District gets. Now, based on 2022 numbers, you can tell me if these are right or not, but this school district had a total revenue of right around $45 million. Is that correct? Do you know?
That could be. We would have to look at the budget.
Yeah.
Is that kind of in the ballpark,
Yeah,
though?
I think that's probably close. It's probably so. And you have to remember there's two sides of the budget. There's the M&O side, which is the general maintenance and operation, and then there's the funds side, which has its own dollars. So like right now,
What's the difference between those two?
So the fund side are the monies that come from specific funds. Say logging if the state logs property, then they disperse so much to all the schools throughout the state. If it's all these other state funds that fund. Lottery fund, that fund the education system.
Right.
And then the M&O is the maintenance and operation, which is the formula that Michelle was just talking about.
Right.
Which it was 25 years when we took office. So it's been almost 30 years since that was even changed. So even the formula itself hasn't been looked at in 30 years.
So do they reduce the amount that comes out of like the maintenance side if they have enough funds to compensate for that, or is the funds going to always be the funds, and then the maintenance always going to be the maintenance, and then funds are like, okay, we've got some extra stuff?
Yeah, there's never any extra. No, it one doesn't reduce by the other one, because the M&O fund is. Well, it's dictated by a lot of things, but that is what the state funds.
That's their constitutional requirement.
Correct.
Right.
Yes. Yes, exactly. What the legislature said.
And then the funds are just like, we have had these extra things that have happened, so we're going to throw that at education.
Correct.
Which is usually never enough anyways. But some people who oppose like levies and would say that Lakeland Joint School District is mismanaging funds. That's a big argument that's out there. Would say that the median revenue for a school district in the state of Idaho is $5 million. And this district is $45 million. I'm not sure, you got a lot of school districts in the state of Idaho, and this is in the top 1%. So it makes sense to me that it would be higher, but still the statistic is there. So if you just take that statistic by itself, you could argue that, oh, well, you guys got all this money. There must be this just truckload of mismanagement happening. And then for spending, the school district is spending roughly $41 million as opposed to the median school district spending between $4.5 to $5 million. Which, according to these graphs, shows you outpacing the median. But here's the part that people don't realize is, as far as revenue per student, the revenue per student here at Lakeland is only $1,000 more per student than the median across the entire state. So you guys are paying or spending the same amount per student as every other district in Idaho, but your spending is way higher, and this probably speaks to the massive amount of growth in one area for sure. So I think that you guys are faced with a very particular set of problems when it comes to this finance, and people really need to try and understand that just because you see federal dollars on a budget sheet doesn't mean that that's something that you guys can use, like if you need another bus, or whatever. And then the state only funds 80% of the stuff that you guys can do, like salaries and maintenance and buildings. And, if you guys need to build a new school, where does that come from?
A bond. The state pays nothing. Yeah,
so the state will do nothing to build a new school.
No.
It has to be a bond presented to the county.
Yes, well, to the school district voters, and they would vote pass the bond or not. It's completely up to the voters, 100%.
And that's something that's in the midst for discussion, I would imagine, at this point.
Yes.
So would it be safe to say that voters will probably be seeing a discussion about bonds surfacing more frequently?
Yeah, so they can take part in that now. One of the committees that I've been advocating for since I got on the board was the Long Range Planning Committee. And it was just a facilities planning committee. They had disbanded that when the other bond didn't pass, or levy, whatever
It was a bond.
A bond, yeah. The $70 million.
Yeah.
They had disbanded that, but we need, and the other thing they had disbanded too was the strategic planning committee. So none of that was happening in the district. So that now is being put back together. The long range planning committees meets. They can visit the district website to get the information on that, and they can partake in that now. It's open to everybody and anybody. That is one thing I can say that we have been vocal advocates for is transparency and communication with the community. We want everybody involved, and we want to hear from everybody. And at one policy committee meeting, it was how many comments were in that one? I can't remember. We read every comment that anybody sends.
That one was a lot.
Yeah, I think it was 750.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. And we read every one of them. So there are committees that the board has established for the community to be involved. And it doesn't matter, student, parent, grandparent, just living here with no tie to the school. We want to hear from everybody because we wholeheartedly believe in that collaborative communication. So as far as the budget and the planning, that's something they can be involved in now for the future.
Okay.
Well, and with respect to what Ramona was saying about the involvement, we have people on our committees that don't have children in the district. They don't have grandchildren in the district. They just want to see their community become better based on the students that it's producing for the growth within the community.
So do you know offhand what the recent bond history has been in the district? When was the last time one was passed? Or when was it floated out there? I don't remember hearing of one.
It would
in
have
recent
to have
history.
been Timberlake.
We have one that's about ready to fall off of the books.
Mm-hmm.
There has been not full transparency when that was going to be because it seemed every year we were told this year, and yet there it was the next year.
Still there.
I do believe it's in 2 years that it falls off of our ability to receive monies. Or no, we're
Paying it off.
Yeah, we're paying it off.
Mhm.
The fact
So-
that you guys couldn't get information on when the bond was going to fall off really ticks me off. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah, well, we were told that wasn't a trustee's job.
Yeah.
I think we've been told a lot of what a trustee's job isn't.
I
instead
thought
of
your
what it
job was
is.
to represent the people of
Yes.
the community, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
if we're spending money to build a building or we're spending money to fund the school, then it would seem like you guys would need to know pretty much everything that's going on with the school district.
You would think, yes.
Yeah, statutorily we are. Statutorily
Yeah.
we are responsible, and the public holds us to it. Hiring and firing of teachers, hiring and firing of admin, the maintenance of the buildings, the curriculum in the schools. But unfortunately, and I don't think it's just our district. I think it's a mindset across education in the state of Idaho. From what I've experienced, is the majority of those in education look at the board as number one, just volunteers, and that we should just say yes to everything that is in education because, after all, what do we know?
You're not
Well,
even an educator. How dare you tell me how to teach
Correct.
these children?
Correct.
You just
yes.
keep the doors open and leave
Right.
the teaching to us.
Right. And
Right.
the
Those are
point
the
is that I represent the people, and it's the people's money, it's the people's buildings. It
Yeah.
all belongs. All those people have a job because of the people's funds.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the taxpayers, they would not even have employment. So
You don't get to be an
all-
elitist if I'm paying for it.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
We are all accountable to the people.
Yeah.
So that's why I became such a student of the statutes and the IDAPA rules, Idaho administrative rules, and understanding not only that, but going back and talking to the legislators who wrote the rule, who passed the law, going back and reading what the intent was. I feel like I'm commandeering everything, but one of the things I fought hard for too, which most people don't know, is at Lakeland we do an interest-based bargaining. So it's not the old back and forth haggling of who's going to get paid what. We all come to the table collectively, and we sit around and decide how the teachers and everybody's going to get paid. Well, I learned that there was APE money, and it's an acronym, advanced something, I can't remember. But basically what it is the teacher seeks more education, jumps through all these hoops that are outlined in the statute to qualify for this extra pay, right? It puts them more as a highly valued educator, or whatever the language is. I'm sure somebody will correct me out there. And I found that the districts were keeping the money. So the districts only received the money because the teacher qualified. The state would figure out how much the teacher qualified and would send that money to the district in the state-based apportionment. So we'll say the teacher made $40,000 a year, but now they qualify for an extra $5,000. So the district would receive $45,000. They weren't passing the money on to the teachers; they kept it.
And they weren't training the teachers to qualify for the APE money either.
Well,
Well,
the teacher would seek that qualification out on their own.
So as
Right.
long as the teacher wasn't seeking it out, that was just $45,000 that got to be used for.
Well, the only way they got the extra $5,000 was because the teacher had done the work. If the
Right.
teacher had not done it, it was the reward that the teacher did do all.
So it was
these
just
things.
money locked up on a budget sheet somewhere.
Right,
Correct.
But
right.
that was hidden from the teacher, so they didn't know
Correct.
they even earned it and were qualified for it and didn't receive it.
The board didn't understand it existed like that either. So
Wow.
I advocated for the teachers to pay the money. We ended up in against. It was a great battle. I'll have to tell you that.
Yeah.
People did not like that at all, but it wasn't their money.
Right.
We ended up being
Who didn't like it? What?
the administration. Yeah, it was district money as far as they're concerned.
The CFO and the superintendent at that time.
Mm-hmm. It was district money.
They were mad because you wanted to help them get a program going that was going to give teachers more money?
They were mad that I was insisting that they give the teacher the money that they received from the state because the teacher qualified.
Bam.
You're
Yeah.
calling them out. They
Yeah,
didn't like it.
absolutely.
Now
That's
you're
right.
in the weeds.
Would
And-
they see that like their reward for just having such an excellent school district because of the ambition of
Well,
their
they weren't
teachers?
getting any money from it, though, right? It
Right.
was just kind of money sitting in a budget sheet on the state level somewhere that wasn't being allocated
no.
at all.
No, it got allocated to the district. The district received the funds, and then the district kept it in their bucket.
And then what did they do with that money?
Whatever.
Who
Whatever
knows?
they wanted to do with it.
Right.
So it just
Yeah.
kind of got liquidated into whatever they wanted to use it for.
Absolutely. Because once again, we didn't have an accounting for it. We didn't even know it existed. We ended up being the only district in the state of Idaho, and I heard it over and over because they were not happy. The only district in the state of Idaho that passed the APE funds to the teacher. And I get so frustrated because I hear these things that I am not for the teacher. That's just ridiculous that I'm not for the teacher. I've suffered many consequences talking up talking for the teacher.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous talking point anyways, because Lakeland Joint School District teachers are paid more than most school district teachers.
I don't know that they're paid more than Coeur d'Alene. And they definitely can drive right over the line and get much more at the beginning.
Right.
Over in Spokane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I would have to look, the governor luckily did raise the entry level 47,700, I think, for entry level teacher. But the sad thing is, if you're sitting there for 6 years without a raise, inflation,
Yeah.
eats that up. And then if they have to pay for family members, their own children or spouses to be on the medical plan or what have you, that's very expensive to them.
It is.
And most of them don't join because they can't afford it, at least the newer teachers.
The other spouse has a real high-paying career job, maybe over in Washington.
Right. So,
It would be basically a supplemental income. It
Mhm.
would be very hard as a single person income to
oh,
raise
yeah.
a family on that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, especially in Kootenai County.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, hard question. I'm going to test your political fortitude here for a second. The accusation that there is a lot of mismanagement, you both agree that there is some mismanagement, at least some mismanagement in the school district of funds directed in different places. Where would you feel like this mismanagement is most obvious?
Well, we're just starting to learn all those things. That's the things we have not been able to pinpoint it. I can speak for myself. All I know is that I could take any set of numbers, whether it was the budget printed in the newspaper, what the federal government had for our budget, and what the state had, and the numbers would never match. And I understand that they're all given in their own format. I get that, but numbers are numbers. Right, you should still be able to reconcile them against each other, but we're just finally, after 4 years, we're finally getting to know where the dollars are that we're asking about. And with our new CFO, who is awesome, she is all about transparency.
Yes.
We just recently learned, because we just went through a audit, that our prior budget under the old CFO was overstated by $4.5 million.
Yeah.
So
that's like 10%.
I think
Yeah.
That's not insignificant.
I think that people that are basing their decision on who they're voting for based on the fact that they had to decide whether they wanted to levy or not need to really consider the fact that our district has more transparency now than it has ever had. And there is a reason for that, because we have board members who are fighting for transparency. We have a superintendent that is staffing for transparency. And in order for that to continue, we have to maintain what we're doing in order to do that, whether it's you guys or whether it's the people that are going to step into your place based on whatever the people vote for. If people want transparency, they need to ask for it. If people want transparency, they need to demand it. And this is one thing I think is frustrating for people, because we don't really fully understand how the school system works on the bureaucratic side of it, on the corporate side of it. So we get frustrated when we see all this kind of interplay that we just don't understand. And I think that a lot of people are just disillusioned to the entire thing. That you have people that are passionate about what their kids are teaching or getting taught, and I think there's probably a passionate kind of discussion about curriculum going on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you were to ask a majority of people, or if you were to ask a lot of people in our community, I know this for our church, which represents, I don't know, like 400 or 500 people total. If you were to ask all of them if they were happy with the way that public schools were performing, I think to a person they would say no.
absolutely, yeah.
And I think that there's just this massive disillusionment with public schools and with funding public schools that is just creating this massive backlash. How do you begin to right that ship? How do you begin to help people to overcome the disillusionment and to have hope again in the public school system?
Well, I think the first thing that you do is you admit to the disillusionment. They're correct. We have to quit telling the people they don't know what they're talking about. They do know. They're watching it. They're listening. The education system has to stop that, and we have to admit there's a problem. There's an issue, not that it can't be fixed or corrected. And most of it is just the transparency, be honest, tell the truth.
Yeah.
We're not always going to agree, but quit telling people they just don't understand. It's too hard for them.
Right.
It's a long process, and, we have to quit. Listen to the people, which is, again, something that we have fought very hard for. Every pushback we have gotten on that board and by the 2 or 3 really loud people in the community has been because we have asked the hard questions, because we've asked the same questions that everybody in the community is asking. Exactly. Right. They would come to us, myself, I'll speak for myself, and ask me a question. And so I would go ask the question.
Yep.
And that's when you would just get hammered, and that's fine. Hammer away. I'll take that for the people.
Yep.
But they owe the honest truth to the people.
They do.
Yeah.
And we have to admit that there is an issue. We have to quit saying that these things are not in our school, because they are in our schools. CRTs is in our school. not Lakeland now, but I'm talking in general. You know, the sex education thing is in the school. The gender ideology is in the school. The boys playing girls sports is in the school. We all know that. Quit lying. We know it. Tell the truth.
Quit pretending that it's not a problem.
Absolutely. Right. And that is what continues to fuel the fire. So somebody has to stand up and say, I hear you, I agree, but do something. And I know that's the reason I get the backlash I get, because I'm just that hard-headed. You know?
That's okay. We could use a little hard-headedness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But by the same token, all of the bad national news about the education system doesn't necessarily fit in our school district.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Absolutely.
I think people hear a lot on the national news and they just assume,
well, they hear
one size
something
fits all.
going on at Coeur d'Alene, and then all of a sudden they think, oh, well, our school board is terrible. You know, it's like, guys, it's pretty easy to understand that there's different districts, and what's going on in Coeur d'Alene has nothing to do with our school district.
Right.
Or West Bonner.
Or West Bonner. Yeah. So like all the stuff going on up there has nothing to do with our school district either. Correct. Our school district in Lakeland Joint School District is really solid right now with Lisa running it and with you guys in office and with the board that we currently have. There's a lot of transparency. There's a lot of openness to talk about the issues that we have. We're in the top 1 percentile of schools. By the way, let's not get too crazy about that, because I think the math scores were like right at 41% instead of 40. So let's not get super excited about that. Mm-hmm. Public school has serious issues. But we have a group right now that's wanting to work on it. And you know, I mean, I'd be curious to see what your guys' opponents feel about a lot of those things, if they're willing to work on transparency, or if they think that they're working on transparency or want to work on transparency, but they aren't, or what are their platforms? What are they really wanting to discuss? And so, you know, it might be, you know, something we might want to look into, but you need to definitely look into it. But I can tell you honestly, from my point of view, my wife homeschooled both of our kids. My youngest attended K1 through 5 at a Christian school in Pensacola, Florida. And then after that, we made the decision that we were going to homeschool. And so we have sacrificed. You know what that's like. We've sacrificed to homeschool our kids. And every year I pay property taxes to pay for a public school system that I don't agree with ideologically. I see as failing. I see as something that will be and is a dinosaur. We've had the same public education system for nigh on a century, and it's not getting any better. And I think from a Christian homeschooler perspective, I'm asking someone to tell me why I should care. Why should I really care at all what happens to the public school system? I mean, with the thought of education savings accounts coming around, and with more there's a private school getting started right now that I know of that's being built. They're popping up all over the place. Why should I care about what happens to the school system, the public school system?
Well, the majority of education happens in the public school. And without an educated citizenry, we lose our republic. And that's great. We have homeschoolers and Christian schools and private schools, but especially in today's age, the families can't afford that bill. Right. You know, they can't afford the $5,000 a year to go to the Christian school or the private school. Maybe the student isn't academically at the rigor of a charter school. The bottom line is our public school educates the majority of our citizenry. These are the adults, the future adults that will run the world that I will be a senior citizen in, right? They will run our country from the ground up. We should be highly passionate about their education. And it's our system. Our money funds it. Why should we not have it the way we want it?
Right.
It should be what we say it is. The legislators in the state of Idaho, under I think it's Article 9, Section 1, that is, their mandate is to fund the free and thorough education in a common school. And before that, it does talk about without the citizenry being educated, that they'll lose the republic. Mm-hmm. So we should care. Mm-hmm. Well, great. We don't partake in it. We teach our children and grandchildren another way. But the bottom line is the majority of students are in the public school. And there's a lot of families. I mean, even from a benevolent standpoint, there's a lot of families that have to be there. There's single parents. There's grandparents raising children. There's great-grandparents raising children. We should want to help them. We should want them to be, the best they can be, to be cliche. That's our public education. It's a direct reflection of us, and it is where it is because we got lazy.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Would you echo that sentiment, Michelle?
Absolutely. I do not understand how come we continue to lower the bar within our public education system. That bar has to be raised. I mean, if we want our citizens to be productive members of society, they have to have an education, and it should be of quality. It shouldn't be gone by the wayside in hopes that somebody else picks up the ball at some point in time farther on down the road. We can't afford that.
That's great. That's great. So what I'm hearing is something akin to, if you care about the future of our republic, then you should care about public education.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
Yeah, well said. That's a great way of thinking about it. And I think a lot of of homeschool Christians, who there's a lot of them in our community, need to know why they should be involved. I think a lot of them disconnect because they think that they're not involved, or, why should I care? I mean, it's like, should I have a voice? Should I input anything? Should I have an opinion or whatever? And I think that a lot of Christian homeschoolers in our community, or just homeschoolers, we have some secular homeschoolers in our community. Mm-hmm. Those people should understand that the world that is being generated by our public school systems and our higher education systems are the people who are going to be running our country.
Absolutely.
In 20 years. So we should care. Yeah,
Yes.
I think that was well said. And anybody who is a thinking person might think through those things, but oftentimes you're so busy doing other things that you don't even really consider it. And then when you see a levy on there, you're like, well, I don't want to pay for another levy because I homeschool my kids. I don't want to pay for these guys to have any more money, but in reality, it's not about investing in the public school system. It's about investing into the health of the United States of America. Ultimately,
Yes.
There's a patriotic duty that comes with funding the schools, but then there's also a patriotic duty in putting the right people in place that will fight for the level of transparency that's needed to make that happen.
Yes.
So I really appreciate you guys, and appreciate you guys coming in and voicing these things with you. I hope some people learn something through all of this. That's ultimately what we desire here, for Christian people in our community in particular. It's not always black and white. And there's oftentimes a lot of things that you don't understand. So, educate yourself and learn and be a scholar. Don't just sit around waiting for someone to spoon feed you the information that you want.
Right.
That being said, Michelle, do you have any final words for us before we get out of here?
I hope that those that are listening, if they do have questions, that they're willing to come forward and ask them, because you're never going to get the answer unless you ask the question.
Right.
And stop choosing to listen to the rhetoric of others that you don't even know where what they're saying came from. If you have questions, ask them. Find out your own answers. Don't depend on, like you said, somebody else to spoon feed you what you think you want to know when you haven't even asked the question.
And if someone wanted to contact you to ask you a question, how would they contact you?
I'm available by email, by telephone. I don't know my campaign email. It's a special one. It's Michelle Thompson for Lakeland School Board at Proton. I don't know what it is.
That's okay.
But you can, Michelle
But that's
Thompson
on
at Lakeland.
the district website.
But if
has
you go to the district
contact
website, it'll have the contact
Yes.
information for you, and you
Yes.
can ask your questions via
Yes.
email, via phone call,
Yes.
whatever.
And I love it when people leave their phone number because I will give them a call. I would much rather have a face-to-face or phone-to-phone. So much is lost in texting or email communication.
Yeah.
You can't hear what the person's saying.
People don't have to wait for a school board meeting
No.
to ask you questions or to talk with you. You're their representative. They can
Right.
contact you anytime that they like, and you can
Absolutely.
return their phone call.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Ramona, you have any final thoughts?
Well, I just thank you for the opportunity. And I thank you guys for everything you do for our community too. I greatly appreciate it. It's in the hands of the people, but moreover, it's in the hands of God. Right?
Amen.
Amen.
So many times I have friends who run for office that are Christians, and a lot of time Christians are really excited and, they're going to be the blessing, God sending them. But I have to remind them, what if you're the judgment? Because when Moses went before Pharaoh, Pharaoh had a decision to make. Moses could be his judgment or he could be his blessing. And I really feel like not only this race, but a time in our country that's what we're faced with. The things being put in front of us can be a blessing or they can be a judgment. With the CRT and all these things we talked about, gender ideology. If
Books in the library.
Correct.
Yeah.
If we ignored those, curse, right? But if we fight it head on and get rid of it, blessing that we were told about them, right? Because they were hiding. So I'm just asking for the people, for their support and for their vote, that we can finish what we started, because we are at a crucial, pivotal time right now. And I think everything that we've gained through the pandemic is very fragile and could go away with one election.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So they can always find me at voteramona.com. They can get me at ramona@voteramona.com. They can call me 208-278-6818. I mean, I'm up for the conversation. I'm transparent. I'm open. What you see is what you get.
How often do you feel like it is that people contact you directly to try and get information?
A lot.
That's good.
Most of the time when they're contacting me, it's because they're frustrated that they tried to resolve something on their own and they couldn't get it resolved.
Right.
Or they're aware of something, but they're afraid to say something about it. And that's been the case with employees and parents and students. I was so thrilled to get an email from a student that had an issue, and we were able to work through the issue and resolve it. I was elated that the student felt free enough to reach out to their representative, because we represent them too. It's up to the people. They either want to keep marching forward or go back to where we were.
Right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Ken, do you have any final words?
Wow, I think Idaho's really at a very, like you said, critical, pivotal time in its education system development, and voters and taxpayers can either be part of the problem or you can be part of the solution. You can be isolationist and just withdraw within yourself and say, well, I got mine and everybody else, it's a free-for-all, get yours. Or you can be part of the solution and try to help us have the best education system in the country. And imagine if it was so good that you didn't want to homeschool because that would be a step down.
Yeah, you
From the
would
public
want to send your child to public school because it was just far superior.
Yeah. Just imagine you wouldn't have to make those sacrifices. You could use that money differently. You could use your time differently. You wouldn't have to have that second job or 2-income home or the single mom, whoever, just getting by. It can make a big difference in people's lives. And it's within our reach. It's within our power. We just have to pursue it, be persistent with it, and demand it. And we can have a better school system in Idaho.
Yeah.
We don't need to be at the bottom.
That's good words. Good words. I think just remember that your vote matters. November 7th is the voting day. So make sure you get out there and you vote. Be an informed voter. Don't just go out and mark a square. Know what you're doing. Know the people that are running. Know their platforms. Know their history. Learn things. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at 3p@athelbaptistchurch.org.
Well, the last I saw, you guys this is the only election on the ballot, right? Are there any other issues or offices
There's
being voted on?
no other offices. There's an open space $50 million issue, bond issue on the ballot. I actually post on my Facebook page, Vote for Ramona. I put a link on there with the little video informing the people that this will be on their ballot.
Yeah, so if you have any questions about that, go there and seek that information out. Use that as a starting place
Yes.
Yeah.
to begin your
there's
journey.
also city council and mayors.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some other things going on.
This is a significant election all around.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there's a mayoral vote in
Yes.
Athol as well,
Mhm.
and some board members. Isn't there a board
a couple
member?
of people that are running in that?
Yeah, I think we know a couple of people that are running in that. Yeah, it's likely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't ask me if I can recommend them. No, they're good people, both of them. But anyways, thank you guys for being with us. We really appreciate your time,
Yes.
and hopefully we'll see what happens with the school board and see if we can continue on in this legacy of transparency that's being created.
Yep.
Really appreciate that. Really appreciate it. Well, that about does it for us today. As always, thank you for joining us. If you have a comment or a question for an episode, please send us an email at 3p@athelbaptistchurch.org. If your idea gets used in the show, you could be the proud recipient of the now world-famous 3P coffee mug. It does make your coffee so much more delicious. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And thanks again to Athel Baptist Church and its members for their generous support of this ministry. And again, thank you for listening. And until next time, remember the Great Commission. Go into all the world, reach the lost with the gospel, and build disciples who can do the same. And with that, we are out.